Hi everyone, my name is Katy Cecen. I'm an organizer with the Movement to Birth Liberation, and I'm going to be joined soon by Charlene Magee, who is the aunt of Denise Williams. Um, so give us a second here to get her in the room.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hi Charlene, I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm taking my glasses off. I'm fine, thank you.
It's so good to be touching base with you tonight, and to have this time to uh, to talk and share a little bit with folks who are tuning in and folks who will be watching the recording of this later, about your niece's life, about Denise Williams, and about the efforts that your family has been involved with to get justice for Denise. So I guess I wanted to uh, thank you so much for joining us tonight and ask you to introduce yourself and share with folks who you are and kind of how we've come to this space tonight.
Well, hello, everybody. Let me put my glasses back on because I can't really see. So, hello, everybody. My name is Charlene Magee. I am the aunt of Denise Williams. And because of her tragic death, um, I had the opportunity, my family had the opportunity to meet Katy. And it's so many other people who we have met along the way. It's very inspiring. It's very uplifting. It's wonderful to feel that my family is not alone. That's the most beautiful thing that my family says quite often, that even through the tragedy and the sadness, that we are not alone. And I've met some wonderful doulas. I have met so many different people during this time, and my family wants to say thank you. You know who you are, and later on in the live, I will say your names. But right now, I'm just grateful to be here to represent my family and to speak about how you all can support us moving forward.
Yes, so for those who aren't familiar or who haven't seen the news reports of this yet, Denise Williams is, or was a 30-year-old woman who
29.
29, who 7 weeks after giving birth to her second daughter, called an ambulance seeking help for postpartum depression and was taken to Queens Hospital Center in Jamaica, Queens, um, and was admitted to that hospital. 48 hours later, her family was informed that she had passed away and was not given the cause of death and not given any information about events leading up to the death. And now I think we're, 42 days later, 7 weeks later, the family still has not received any additional information about what happened to Denise. Um, and so the you know those facts have been widely reported on and not contested by the hospital, um, and the I guess something we want to talk about tonight is what has happened since. And Charlene, I was wondering or hoping you could share some of your family's experience in the last month and a half since losing Denise, of what it has been like. Yeah, essentially of what it has been like in the aftermath and in the wake of the loss of your niece.
But one of the things I want to say, and one of the things I want to let everybody know, is that my family is a very large family. Denise's mother has 11 kids. Well, now she has 10 kids, Denise, because Denise is no longer here. But Denise has a she have a whole host of brothers and sisters. My sister had 8 girls and 3 boys. So we have a very, very large family. My mother has 8 girls, and we are relatively close. And her family, her sisters and her brothers are missing her. And I think the hardest part is that the children. One of the things I see with my sister, it's very hard for her to really look at the baby. It's difficult. My niece Belinda was she's married, and she didn't have any kids. Now she has 2 beautiful babies that she's caring for. So her life changed dramatically overnight. Thank God that I have a daycare, so the kids are with me during the day, and then they're with Belinda, of course, at night. But my family misses her. Her sisters miss it. They miss her. I would love for you all to get the opportunity to hear what their siblings, her siblings, have to say to describe how loving and caring how loving and caring Denise was. She's a very loving individual, and she's missed. My family is hurting. My sister is hurting. I don't like to say I have 3 kids of my own, not knowing what happens. She doesn't know what happened to her daughter. That is a question. She's 42 days. There's no answer yet. So she's still waiting to receive an answer on what happened to her child. I couldn't imagine what my sister's going through. She's in and out of the hospital. In and out of the hospital because of her. It's stressful. I speak to my sister every day. Every day I speak to my sister. I told my sister I was coming live tonight. But I really wish, you all can hear from her siblings. They all have something wonderful to say about their sister. But my family just want to get answers.
Yeah. Charlene, could you share with us some memories of Denise and share with us a little bit about who she was as a person, about her life?
Well, Denise was very loving. I was speaking to her sister, Dora, last night on the phone. And her and Dora were very close. And she said, Auntie, Denise really loves all different types of music. She was a writer. She wrote poetry. Being a sister of she was a sister of 10 siblings, and Denise didn't mind being by herself sometimes. And that's okay. That's fine. But she was very loving and very down to earth. A sweet person. Sorry, somebody was texting me. Very sweet, very kind, very understanding, and very loving. That's the person Denise was. And she was a great mom to her kids. And it's so sad and tragic that her 2-month-old baby would never know who her mother is, only through pictures and stories from her family, but she will never know who she is. The 3-year-old asks about her every day. Every day. During dramatic play, she picks up the phone. She's like, hello, Mommy. When you're coming home from the hospital, Auntie Mommy's in heaven. She doesn't really understand. And it breaks my heart when I see her. It breaks my heart. So this is the aftermath, right, of what my family is going through. This is on a daily basis. And yes, she's loved. by her uncles and her aunties.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. She's loved by everybody, but she would never have her mom. And that's what my family is going through. And it's so unfair.
Yeah.
It is so unfair that after 42 days, my sister doesn't have an answer to how her daughter died in the hospital. And it's sad.
Yeah. Charlene, can you talk about what kind of support has your family received in the aftermath? Have you been so surprised by? Are there things that folks who are watching can be doing to support you and your family through this time?
My family has been receiving a lot of wonderful support, whether it's through the GoFundMe, whether it's through resources, through mental health. And one person, it's a lot of people, right, that my family has been meeting. And one person who you introduced me to, and I constantly, like, I talk about this woman, Sonia, and I just spoke to her on Thursday, how phenomenal her organization is. And I was elated that I got the opportunity to meet her. And yet I was sad because I wish I would have met her like August the 16th, August the 15th, because her organization is a resource that everybody, I think, like every mental health physician or clinic, they need to have her agency. I can't believe that everything her agency offers, everything that my niece was suffering with, Sonia's name never came up. And her agency never came up as a referral. I never heard of Zucker's Hospital for Prenatal Psychiatric. Never have I heard of it. I've shared it with my family. I said, look at this. Can you believe this? They really have something. But she didn't have the opportunity to take it. It was never offered to her. I didn't really want to share that information with my sister Linda, only because coulda, shoulda, woulda. And I didn't want to have that on her. But I did share it with my nieces, and I shared it with my sisters, my other sisters. And I said, like, we have to do something. We have to do something. And Denise's death is not going to be in vain. And I'm learning more and more about postpartum. Like, that is my mind changed. I'm different. I'm more focused on mental health and trying to figure out this thing and being more involved and being an advocate and being a referral agency. If I ever see somebody, if I ever hear anything about postpartum mental health, I want to be the type of individual to share it out, push it out. Like, there is help. And I feel like so many women, such as my niece, never had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Charlene, can you tell us about some of the things that your family's been doing to bring awareness to Denise's death, about the Justice for Denise effort, and how folks can get involved and support that?
Well, my family, we are hosting a rally on October the 17th. And we are asking Um, we're asking people to come stand with us, come protest with us in front of Queen's Hospital. We want to make our presence known that Denise has a village that is going to fight for her. We're going to fight for answers. We are not going to give up. So if you're available on October the 17th at 11:30, please come out and wear your mask, bring a sign, Justice for Denise, because we want to let Queens Hospital Center know that we are coming peacefully and we're not going to be silent. You're not going to make us be quiet. She has some very fierce and wonderful family members who are willing to stand up, because that's what we do. We stand up for each other and we're not backing down. We're not going to allow you all to try and hush, keep us quiet. That was my niece. That was my sister's daughter. That was her sister's sister, her brother's sister, her cousins. We are not playing. My mother did not birth 8 girls, and Linda did not birth 11 children for us to be quiet. That is not the way we were raised. We will come peacefully, but you will hear us in our silence.
Absolutely. Charlene, I guess we've had the opportunity to speak some in the past weeks. And I think, is there anything that we've talked about that you'd want me to share in this live, or make sure that I touch on in this conversation?
Well, I remember one of our conversations that we were having, I don't know, yesterday, last night, what I found very interesting about the healthcare system, about Metro Plus. Metro Plus is the only health insurance that, what is the managed care health insurance, if I'm not mistaken, that Queens Hospital takes. So if you have Metro Plus, you can't go to to see a physician in LIJ or any other hospital. You can only go to Queens Hospital. And I just found that out, from doing my research. And that's appalling to me. There has to be some systematic changes with the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things we talked about.
Yeah. Thank you, Charlene. The something that has really struck me in working with your family is that we can't really call for systemic change and for to address the systemic issues that contributed to Denise's death, because we still don't know what caused it and what led up to it. And so that is why, for the time being, we're going to be outside of Queens Hospital protesting, because, until we have more information, we don't know where else to go, or who else to aim our outrage at. But and kind of with that said, we know that Queens Hospital had a lot of disadvantages facing it, in preventing it from being able to provide quality care to its patients, from long before Denise went there, from long before the pandemic started. New York has had a separate and unequal way of financing healthcare that puts public hospitals at an extreme disadvantage, and makes it very difficult to have an appropriate number of doctors and nurses on staff, and for those staff to be appropriately trained to provide quality care. So in New York City, we know that Black women are 8 to 12 times more likely than white women to die of childbirth or of pregnancy-related causes. And we know that half of that disparity is because the hospitals where Black women go to are more dangerous than the hospitals that white women go to. And that is because of the unequal insurances that those populations use and the unequal way they reimburse for care. So the one of the things, the movement to birth liberation is a non-hierarchical network of birth and reproductive justice activists. And essentially what that means is we're not an organization. It's mostly me with a bunch of social media accounts and a database, and the ability, and you all, many of you who are tuned in right now, who in your own capacity are birth and reproductive justice activists, and through us working together and through the networking that the Movement to Birth Liberation does, we've been able to work on various various issues that touch on pregnancy health in New York City over the past couple of years. And one of the main policies we focus on is the New York Health Act, which would provide universal guaranteed health insurance to every New Yorker. And so many people kind of think of universal health care as being a good thing because of people who are uninsured, and it absolutely is important and great in that respect alone. But really important when it comes to Black maternal health, it's not a mystery to us why these disparities exist. In the past, when Black women have died, there's been calls for more data and more data collection. Well, we already have a lot of data, and that data tells us tells us very clearly what's going on. And it's that the New York City hospital system is incredibly dangerous and is often not able to provide basic care. And that is my history as and kind of how I come into this work is as a nurse whistleblower, and I worked at SUNY Downstate Public Hospital 4 or 5 miles away in Brooklyn, where I regularly saw people suffering medical errors and preventable injury because of mistakes the hospital was making, and not because anybody on staff didn't care about our patients, didn't want to, we all wanted to provide good care, and we're often put in a situation where we were prevented from doing that because of systemic or structural issues. So I guess, if this interview finds its way back to Queens Hospital, we would love to know what the issues were so we can address those issues, and not. Right. We get that, the structural issues facing hospitals, and that it's only gotten worse since coronavirus. The unequal way we distribute federal aid normally to hospitals is the same way we distributed the coronavirus aid, which really exacerbated many of the issues the public hospitals were already facing. And then lastly, to your point, Charlene, of talking about, there are services available for people who are struggling with postpartum mood disorders. And we definitely want to make sure that message gets out, and for folks who are listening to this interview to know that if you are somebody you love is struggling with a postpartum mood disorder, look, because keep looking, connect with the Postpartum Resource Center of New York. There are resources out there, but often there are significant barriers to accessing it because the person closest to you doesn't accept your insurance. And if you're already really stressed out and depressed,
Yes.
it's incredibly difficult to, I just, in the past year, my stepmom had to find me a therapist because like, when you're depressed, it's hard to find a therapist that takes your insurance. So, uh, and so, again, we'll be hopefully we'll have answers soon and have more information to be able to dig into the structural uh, and we suspect that one of them is going to be, and actually, and we know that if we end up being a health provider, that Denise would have had a lot more options available to her, and may not have been in a position calling an ambulance. And so, yeah, so the policies like the New York Health Act and single payer health insurance, I think, will be very important in the conversation generally about how to improve pregnancy with health, and how to reduce the disparities that are particularly bad here in our city and in our state. Charlene, you already shared so beautifully about ways that folks can support, and I guess I just wanted to kind of like summarize.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you, Katy.
So, yeah, the protest is coming up this Sunday, the 17th. So please come out if you can't make it. Be sharing about the protest. Please tag folks who you think.
Yes, please.
I think something that's been, Charlie mentioned lots of people have been helpful to the family, maybe a little slower on the organizations. And so it would be great if folks are tagging organizations that if you're thinking, oh, doesn't that organization do maternal health? Yes, so please tag them so they know about this and can be promoting it and helping us get the word out. The two news articles that that have been published so far about Denise's story, both of those reporters came to know about the protests and to know about what was going on because folks who are watching this live right now tagged them in. Without this community, without just normal birth workers, normal everyday New Yorkers, members of Denise's family doing that type of work of tagging reporters, tagging local news, we would not have gotten to where we are now, and we won't be able to get to where we need to go, really addressing the systemic issues with pregnancy care, with postpartum care, with New York City hospitals, if we're not all involved and working on it together. Shani mentioned there's a GoFundMe linked in the Movement to Birth Liberation, in the Movement to Birth Liberation's link tree. So please give if you are able and share widely. And then also in the Movement to Birth Liberation link tree, you'll see a form where you can get plugged in. And so please also fill that out because kind of long term, we know that some portion of the solution is going to be through legislation, and it will be important for us to be able to get in touch with you so you can get in touch with your representatives about relevant legislation that will help prevent preventable death and help support families that have experienced them. Something that we're working on now with the Save a Rose Foundation is families should not have to rely on GoFundMes when the death is clearly at the fault of a public hospital. If a public hospital is responsible, us, the public, should be also responsible to that family for the real real financial, emotional, and resource deficit that it creates when you lose a parent unexpectedly. And so hopefully we'll be working on developing legislation that pays reparatory payments to folks who've experienced pregnancy-related losses, which we know are almost always preventable. And we'll need to get in touch with you, and we'll need you to get in touch with your representatives for legislation like that to be viable or to be able to get passed. And then also thank you everyone who has tuned in to watch this live.
Yes, thank you.
It would be such a help if you can, I'm going to post the recording of this shortly after we log off. If you please can share the recording of this live, maybe share one or two points that you learned, a brief 1 or 2 sentence summary of who Denise was and what we are doing to get justice for Denise, tag the movement, and help us continue to get the word out. What happened to Denise was state violence. It is, the difference between a police officer killing someone who's, a police officer who's paid by the state killing somebody, and a hospital that is run by the state failing to provide appropriate care in a way that leads to a preventable death. The end result, very little different. The trauma of the family experiences, very little different. So please, we want as much attention on what happened to Denise as possible. It sets an incredibly dangerous precedent. If people in hospitals die, their families never find out what happens, and there are no consequences or repercussions. That can't be where we're at as a city. It can't be where we're at as a society. So please, all of the things we've mentioned before, be sharing this, be tagging folks. Let's get the word out. Say her name, Denise Williams, Justice for Denise.
Yes, Denise Williams. I wanted to say before we log off, I have these journals that I had purchased, I think last year sometime. They purple, and I want to literally, if there's a doula that has one of their patients who needs to write in the journal, I just literally just want to show you the journal and DM me your information, because I'm going to give them away for free. I think I have maybe about 6, but I want to show you what it looks like. Give me 1 second, okay?
That's lovely. Thank you everybody and for sharing the GoFundMe and the information about the protest.
So this is the journal. I think I have 6 of these left. If you want the journal, it's by, what's the young lady who I love this young lady so much. She's not paying me anything. I never even met her, but I love her, and her name is April Diva Styles, and I purchased these a few last year, I think it was. And I write in my journal every day. It's very healing, and I just want to offer this to anyone who wants it. If you want to give it to a client, DM me, send me your mailing address, and the journal is definitely yours. So that is from my family to you.
Charlene, for giving us your time this evening, for sharing your family story with us. I guess maybe one last thing before we sign off is, it is already an injustice that Denise's family has had to turn to the public to try and get answers, and they don't need to share any more information than what they have shared with us for us to be outraged about what has happened and for us to be moved to action. So the family has not received answers, and let's respect their privacy going forward, that they'll share with us what what they want us to know when they want us to know it. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Charlene, thank you so much for your time, and we'll hopefully see you this Sunday.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.